Hello, and thanks for watching another episode of ARFCOM News, your twice-weekly dose of the finest 2A propaganda. First up today, check out this DGU out of Michigan. Dirtbag comes into the store to rob the place with a box cutter, and he gets smoked by a man holding his six-pack of beer. Now, I know, at first glance, it might get a chuckle out of you, because this Chad obviously has his priorities in order. But there are a few lessons we can learn here, folks.
Are we learning yet?
It looks like the customer draws a small pistol from his pocket and has to use his other hand to clear the holster, which was made more difficult by the six-pack still in his hand. So the first lesson here is to carry in such a way that your gun is ready to use immediately. Your holster should not come out with a gun. No, you should not carry with an empty chamber. The second big takeaway here is it is common for people to reflexively grasp whatever is already in their hands when they're stressed. So while you're doing your dry fire drills at home, you should also practice dropping whatever happens to be in your hands at the start of your draw. You do dry fire, right? This guy also might have created some legal issues for his attorney because he fired a total of 7 rounds, one of them while the perp was still lying on the ground. He says the bad guy was still crawling toward him, but the weapon was a box cutter, so it might be difficult to articulate why he felt that was still a threat. The customer also had to go back out to his vehicle to retrieve a spare magazine so he could reload and hold the wounded dirtbag at gunpoint while they waited for the 5-0. Maybe a good idea to have a mag on your person. The crook survived and is looking at life in prison because he's been convicted of felonies 3 other times in the past.
I am Jack's complete lack of surprise.
So, how would you guys have handled this situation differently? Comment below. And while you're chewing on that, take a moment to also consider it would be impossible for us to produce quality 2A propaganda without sponsors. So let's pay some bills. Today's video is sponsored by Springfield Armory.
New for 2023 is the Springfield Echelon. The striker-fired polymer frame pistol features Springfield's new variable interface system for mounting multiple optic footprints and the serialized cog fire control for inserting into multiple frames. Find out more at springfield-armory.com.
And by TNVC.com, your source for good old-fashioned all-American night vision just like Mom used to make. And by Gunstock, a 2-day festival of peace and guns in Waxahachie, Texas. Come hang out with me September 23rd and 24th and make some pews, eat some food, and enjoy some music. Every time there's a slow news week, the usual suspects drag out this UN arms control treaty. And to be frank, this week has been kind of slow. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee called a special session to try to pass a red flag law, but he isn't really likely to get his way. Delaware passed a new law with expanded defenseless victim zones, including a ban on guns in any motor vehicle owned, operated, or leased by any school. There was one pretty big case out of Massachusetts which found non-resident permits to be unconstitutional, and we'll get to that one in a moment, but first, I want to talk about this UN treaty. First of all, this is nothing new. It's been rattling around for more than a quarter century, and the treaty regards illicit arms trading. That means illegal. It would have no effect on legal U.S. gun makers. Moreover, the provisions in the treaty are pursuant to the member nation's laws. It cannot override the Second Amendment or the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. And the U.S. Senate has not ratified the treaty either, so we're not bound by it. Even if we were, it would only apply to arms traded internationally. Most of what it does is to encourage member nations to share information about where arms are supposed to end up. Now, it could harm the import market to some extent, but even that is a long shot. Now, I don't mean we support the ratification of this treaty either. If you have the time, you really should call 212-224-3121 and remind your senator not to sign it. Or remind somebody else's senator not to sign it. But the sky is not falling. There are many more important issues to get fired up about. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the actual news this week. The legacy media has been going absolute apeshit over Jack Jones, a sports ball player who got arrested at Logan International Airport in Boston after pistols were discovered in his carry-on. The TSA declined to press charges because there was no intent to board the plane with weapons, but Massachusetts is proceeding with the usual charges like possessing a gun without the Crown's pleasure. Whether or not he is convicted, Jones could get fired from his sports ball job. He bonded out and he is awaiting a hearing, but while that case is pending, another case in Massachusetts might just have saved his bacon right in time. A Massachusetts district court ruled in favor of a New Hampshire resident who was arrested in Massachusetts for carrying without a permit. The Honorable John F. Coffey wrote, "A law-abiding resident of New Hampshire who is exercising his constitutional right should not become a felon by exercising that right while he is traveling through Massachusetts merely because he has not obtained a Massachusetts license to carry."
So say we all.
The justice also pointed out how a person could carry in a perfectly legal manner without any state permission slip at Pheasant Tree Mall in Nashua, New Hampshire, but if they happen to stray into a specific corner of JCPenney's, they're suddenly transformed into a felon because the state line runs right through the store. What does that mean in the long run? Well, it's a state district court, so there's lots of room to appeal and kick the ball back and forth, and there really isn't a clear path to a national level opinion anytime soon. But it also serves as yet another example of where the courts sit post-Bruin, and that's looking pretty good for us. Just one last thing before we get to your moment of zen. I'd like to invite you to come hang out in our Discord so you can make fun of me and share some of your spiciest 2A propaganda and even see some of the stories that didn't make it into the news. We'll post a link down there in the doobly-doo. And now for your moment of zen.
How to commit a war crime in under 60 seconds.
Hey friends, do you like pews and other pew-related things? Would you like to help us keep delivering you pure, uncut American pew-propaganda at the low price of $3.50? We literally couldn't pay the bills without our sponsors, so do us a solid and get yourself something nice from them. You deserve it. I love you. Peace and guns and Waxahachie. Passamaquoddy. Passamaquoddy?